There's a poker player at your local card room right now who's been sitting in that same seat at the same game for 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. He knows the floor by name. He knows the dealers. He talks about poker constantly. He quotes solvers. He's watching training videos. He's using terms like polarized and range advantage and node blocking. He considers himself a student of the game, and he's still a losing player. Not a massive loser, not a fish. He doesn't go broke every session. He treads water. He breaks even for months, or he loses slowly, steadily, and blames variance, bad beats, and the guy who just called his top two with a gut shot and got there. That is the bad regular. He's not your enemy. He's your most reliable paycheck every single session. This is Vinton Poker, precision in, profits out. I'm Vinton, and my mission and my passion is to make you a consistent and profitable player in your cash games. Today, we're talking about bad regulars, not fish, not maniacs. The guys who've been around long enough to look like they know what they're doing, but not long enough to actually fix what's wrong. They're not losing because they make huge, obvious mistakes. They're losing because they make small, invisible, predictable mistakes over and over and over again. And because they've been playing this way for years, those mistakes are now deeply wired in and ingrained. They're not going to fix them. They don't even know those leaks exist, which means your edge isn't beating them with brilliant poker. It's identifying their exact leaks and then punishing them with precision every session, every hand, every single time. That's PIPO, and that is exactly what we're doing today. The first mistake players make against bad regs is treating them as one category. They see a regular, and then they play some default generic, trying not to go wrong, check behind on the river because I'm not sure kind of game that costs them a fortune. Bad regs break into 4 distinct profiles, and each one requires a completely different weapon. Get the profile wrong, and you're playing the wrong game. Get it right, and every session becomes a systematic extraction. Profile 1 is the nit reg. You know this guy. VPIP around 15 to 20%. He talks about ranges and position, but mostly what he does is wait. Wait for real hands. Wait for certainty. Wait for spots where he already knows he's ahead before committing chips. He folds his blinds like it's a religion. He plays tight and he's proud of playing tight. And he calls playing tight solid. Here's what that tells you. His range is almost always honest. When he raises, he's got something. When he calls down, he's got something. When he check raises a turn, he has exactly what that line represents. He's not creative. He doesn't bluff rivers. He doesn't fire triple barrels on air. He's not running some elaborate squeeze play to move you off your hand, which means your money against the nit does not come from getting paid. It comes from stealing. Widen your opens when he's in the blinds because he folds them too often. Attack the board where his range is naturally capped. When the flop is king 7 deuce rainbow and he checks this dry board to you, bet. Not because you have a king, which most of the times you won't, but because he doesn't either and he's scared. When the turn comes an ace or a flush completer, barrel it. His range is full of pocket pairs and medium strength hands that hate those cards. He's going to surrender and mutter something about run out. But here's the critical thing. When the nit wakes up, believe him. If he check raises your turn barrel, stop. If he leads the river after floating a flop, stop. If he 3-bets you when he almost never 3-bets, stop. Nits do not suddenly become creative on the most expensive streets. Their aggression is a confession. Fold, protect your stack, and move on to the next hand. You've already taken 15 pots away from him while he was sitting on his hands. You can afford to believe him on this one time he plays back at you. The nit reg is extremely beatable because he's almost entirely predictable. And predictable in this game is the most expensive thing that you can be. Profile 2 is the sticky reg. This is the opposite of the nit in every way that matters. The sticky reg has decided somewhere along the way that everyone at the table is always bluffing him, and he has made it his personal mission to never fold again. He calls flops because he's got overcards, or draws, or just a feeling. He calls turns because he's already pot committed in his head. And even when the math says otherwise, he'll call. He calls rivers with hands that should have been mucked 2 streets earlier because folding feels like surrender. This kind of player will actually say things out loud like, "You can't always have it. I just had a feeling," or "I needed to see it." This is not poker thinking. That is ego mismanagement with chips. Against the sticky reg, the adjustment is almost insultingly simple. Value bet relentlessly. Value bet everything. Value bet thinner than it feels comfortable. Top pair good kicker is a 3-street hand. Overpairs are printing machines. Even second pair on a dry board where the draws have bricked out can be profitable river bets because his range has enough worse pairs that are too often too stubborn to fold. Anytime you have a hand that beats his calling range, you get the money in. Full stop. And size up. This is the part most players miss. A player who wants to call will call regardless of the price. He's not doing pot odds. He's not running equity calculations. He's making a psychological decision about whether he believes you or not. So bet 75 instead of 45%. He's calling both. Take the bigger number every single time. One more thing about sticky regs that catches people off guard, because he's passive almost all the time, when he suddenly raises, everything stops. That raising range is almost exclusively strong. Slow played sets, 2 pairs he's been trapping with, a rivered monster. The entire rest of the session, he just called and never raised. And then he raises. Pay attention to the passivity pattern, and when it breaks, respect it. Fold, move on. Profile 3 is the ABC reg. This is the most common player in any 1-2, 1-3, or even 2-5 games. The ABC reg has studied just enough to have habits. He opens standard sizes, c-bets dry boards, sizes up for value, and respects position. He has assembled a collection of poker rules, and he follows them mechanically, without thought, without judgment. That's the problem. He plays the rules and not the situation. He plays hand strength, not ranges. He bets the flop because that's what you're supposed to do after you raise pre-flop, not because he has a range advantage on this specific texture against this specific opponent. He gives up on turns because the rule says slow down when called. He checks rivers because the rule says don't put more money in when you're not sure. He's playing on autopilot, and autopilot has a pattern. He raises pre-flop. You call in position. He bets a dry flop. You call. He checks the turn. That check is not a strategy. That's relief. His ace-queen didn't improve. His pocket tens is uncomfortable on that turn card. His ace-jack has no idea where it stands. He wanted the hand to be over after the flop, and it isn't. He checked because he's managing anxiety, not because he has a plan. Bet the turn, not as a reflex, but as a systematic read. When an ABC reg raises pre-flop, bets a flop, and then checks a turn that connects more with your calling range than his raising range, you stab. His range has contracted to a bunch of one-paired hands that want to coast down to showdown. Don't let him. Float his flop bets more in position. Check raise him more with semi-bluffs because he doesn't have the depth to counter-adjust. Attack every turn check you read as a surrender. The ABC reg is not subtle, and you don't need to be subtle to beat him. You need to be systematic. Identify the autopilot, exploit the autopilot every time. Profile number 4 is the ego reg. And this one is both the most emotionally profitable and the most dangerous if you approach it wrong. The ego reg hates being pushed around. He has a story about himself, some version of "I'm not a pushover," or "nobody runs me over," or "I've been playing this game for 20 years. He defends way too wide. He calls too light. He hero calls rivers not because the math supports the call, but because folding feels like getting owned. His identity is tied to the outcome of individual hands. When he thinks you're bluffing, he will call with almost nothing just to prove a point. The mistake against the ego reg is running elaborate multi-street bluffs. Don't. His entire self-concept is built around catching bluffers. So you're feeding his mission when you try to run him off hands. He's not going to fold. He's going to call and flip over his second pair and spend the next 40 minutes talking about how he knew you were bluffing. So you flip the script. Show him one cheap bluff early in the session. Let him see it. Let him feel like he's figured you out. Let him tell the table. Build the image. And then for the rest of the session, when you actually have it, you polarize, you size up, and you let his ego write the check. He's not calling because the math says to. He's calling because he decided you're always bluffing and he's not going to let you get away with it again. Every ounce of credit you gave him by showing that early bluff comes back to you as a value bet he'll never fold against. Their pride is your profit. Use it. Before we go on, if you're getting value from this video, give it a like and share it with someone else who's also serious about becoming a crusher just like you. Your support helps this channel grow, and it means the world to me. Also, don't forget to share your thoughts and questions in the comments below as I read them all. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any future episodes. Now, let's talk about something that runs underneath all four of these profiles. Something sitting in the background of every single decision a bad reg makes. Because once you understand it, the game changes. Bad regs are not trying to win. They're trying not to lose. Think about what that actually means. Every decision is filtered through the lens of avoiding pain, avoiding embarrassment, avoiding the feeling of being attacked, avoiding the feeling of being stacked, avoiding looking stupid in front of players they've sat with for years. They're playing defense against their own emotions more than they're playing offense against your range. When a bad reg bets small on the flop, small on the turn, and then suddenly fires big on the river, that's not a balanced range construction. That's anxiety management. The small bets were him not being sure. The big river bet is him finally having something he's comfortable putting real money in with. That pattern, small, small, large, means weak, weak, strong. Fold those rivers. When a bad reg bets the flop and checks the turn, that's relief. He wanted to get to the river without spending more chips. He got called and he retreated, stabbed the turn, not as a bluff for the sake of bluffing, but because his range has surrendered the initiative and he's telling you with his check that he's uncomfortable. Exploit that. When a bad reg calls the flop and turn and then checks the river, he's got a bluff catcher. He's praying you check behind. He has something medium strength that survived 2 streets, and now he wants to coast to showdown without anyone making it more expensive. Bet. A sizing that extracts from hands he's already emotionally committed to calling. He called twice because he can't get away from hands. He's not going to learn how now on the river. The deeper the street, the more honest they become. That's the rule. The river is where the psychology is most exposed, where the decisions cost the most, where bad regs reveal exactly who they are. Watch it closely. Now let's talk about the river specifically because this is where real money lives in these games. And there are 2 things that are simultaneously true about bad regs on rivers, and both of them cost you if you don't understand them. First, bad regs massively underbluff river raises. At 1-2, 1-3, and 2-5, when passive regs call your flop bets, call your turn bets, and then raise your river bets, he almost never is bluffing. His raising range at that point is the nuts or close to it. 2 pairs, slow played sets, a straight or flush he's been patient with, something real. Most players at this level have 0 bluff raises in their game. They're just not built that way. Folding a strong but a non-nutted hand to that raise is not bad poker. That's professional poker. Save your hero calls for players who actually bluff rivers. Most bad regs don't. Second, bad regs massively undervalue bet rivers. They check behind constantly with hands that should be betting. They reach the river with top pair and think, I don't want to get raised, and they check. They reach the river with an overpair and think, I got value from the flop and the turn already, and they check. They leave money behind hand after hand because betting rivers is uncomfortable and checking feels safe. You should be doing the exact opposite. Let's say you have ace queen off on a board that runs out queen of clubs, eight of spades, four of diamonds, seven of hearts, two of spades. The bad reg calls the flop c-bet and you turn barrel. He checks the river. Most players check behind here because they're scared of queen eight or slow played sets. But what does his actual range look like? He has something like king queen off, queen jack off, queen 10 off, maybe ace 8 suited that didn't raise the flop, maybe even pocket sevens he's been stubborn with. He has a lot of worse queens and a lot of pairs below top pair. All of those hands call a reasonably sized river bet. The sets and the two pairs are small part of his range and they're probably calling your bet anyway. So you bet, you collect from the hands that they're already emotionally committed to seeing a showdown with. The money you're leaving behind by not betting the rivers is enormous. Do not check behind because of what's possible. Bet because of what is probable. Pre-flop bad regs make structural mistakes even before the first card hits the felt, and those mistakes are just as exploitable as anything else. Most 1-2, 1-3, and 2-5 regs limp too much. They flat too many 3-bets out of position, they under 4-bet, they overcall squeeze spots, and they almost never 4-bet bluff. That last one is important. If a bad reg is only 4-betting with queens plus, his 4-bet range is so narrow that you can simply fold to it and lose almost nothing. He's not going to take the pot away from you with a hand he doesn't have. Your 3-betting range against these players should be value heavy and linear. Tens plus, ace queen off plus, ace jack suited, and king queen suited against loose opens. You don't need a balanced 3-betting range with bluffs threaded through the bottom because these players are not attacking your imbalance. They're not even noticing it. They're overcalling with dominated hands and wondering why they keep losing small pots. Punish them with stronger ranges and bigger sizes. When it comes to isolation raises over limpers, most players leave money behind here also. At 1-2, with one limper, raise to 12 to 15. Multiple limpers raise to 20 or 22. At 1-3, scale up from there. A small isolation raise is an invitation. You're telling every limper in the pot that this is cheap, that this is worth seeing a flop, that the pot building conditions are friendly. That's exactly what bad regs want. They want cheap flops with speculative hands so they can outplay you post-flop. Don't give them cheap flops. Make it expensive to play with you. That's the game. Here's what I want you to walk away with because this is where real long-term edge lives. Not in any single adjustment, in the system underneath it all. But before that, if you want to work directly on the bad regs in your specific games, the exact player types at your local games, the spots that aren't clicking, the adjustments you can't quite pull the trigger on, I want to offer you a free session. 60 minutes, one-on-one, directly with me. You can reach me on WhatsApp and book your spot. Link is in the description below. Come find me. And if you want to go deeper on this entire framework, the math, the psychology, the full exploitative logic behind every adjustment we talked about today, that's what my Delusion Killer Masterclass is built for. Getting back to what I want you to walk away with from this video. Bad regs are creatures of habit. They play the same game today that played 3 years ago. They have not fixed the leak because they don't know those leaks exist. They think they're making decisions. What they're actually doing is running an operating system they built years ago from incomplete information, and they're running it faithfully every session without question. Your job is to learn the operating system. After 5, 10, 20 sessions with the same players, you should know their tendencies so specifically that you stop playing poker and you start executing scripts. Against this player, value bet thin every river. Against that player, never bluff. Against this one, float flops and stab every turn check. Against that one, size up massively and value bet hands and let his ego do the rest. Stop taking notes on cards they hold. Start taking notes on patterns they exhibit. Don't write, he had king queen off. Write, he folded top pair on turn pressure. Or never bluff raises rivers. Or ego calls after getting caught bluffing. Build the profile, because once you know their operating system better than they do, every hand stops being a guess and starts being an execution. That is the deepest secret about bad regs. They don't lose because they're bad, they lose because they never evolve. And you beat them not with fancy poker, but by staying disciplined and systematic while they stay comfortable and predictable. Precision in, profits out. And if you want to keep learning and keep crushing, click on this video right here. As always, GG.